Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining me in my little nerd boy orgasm, for lack of a better phrase. I just got back just a few minutes ago from seeing Avengers Infinity War, the narrative culmination of 10 years of Marvel Cinematic Universe films, at least since the last Avengers movie, which was the culmination of 8 years of Marvel Cinematic films, or 7 years, or whatever. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give some high level impressions, a few criticisms in general, and I'm not going to cover any plot points. Okay, I'm not going to go into any detail. I will be giving my impressions about plot points in a very vague sense, just to get those out there. But otherwise, I'm not going to talk about the details because for anyone who's been following the Marvel Cinematic Universe all these years, you definitely do not want any spoilers ahead of seeing this movie. I mean, some people don't care about spoilers. I personally do. So I won't be giving away anything in that sense. But I will be talking about my impressions. All right. So, with all that covered, if you want to be an absolute purist, obviously, go see the movie before listening to this, if you're listening to this in the future. Or even if you're listening to this live, it'll still be here when you get back. Okay, so with all that being said, a couple of quick hellos to people in the chat. Hello, Mule1066. Hello, Shady Grin. Hello, My Life is a Meme. Now, you'll have to tell me in the chat if, for whatever reason, my sound goes robot or something, because I don't have a monkey or a Satsu here to tell me otherwise, okay? So, Avengers Infinity War was great. It is going to make a zillion trillion dollars. Okay. For anyone who is a comic books fan, and especially a fan of good, and I specify good, Marvel event crossover stories, this movie pretty much embodies everything that makes those great when they work. Okay. There are different storylines taking place where different characters have come together under various circumstances from all of the films thus far, except for a couple in particular. And I won't say who, but they are decidedly absent. There is one line that kind of explains why they're not there. I assume we'll find out the details in a future relatively upcoming film. But other than that, just about everybody who was significant in any of the Marvel films, at least character-wise, from Iron Man up through this, or up through whatever the last one was, Black Panther, makes an appearance somewhere in this movie. I won't say where, I won't say how. I'll just say that, you know, if you've been watching the movie since they began, there's plenty to see. Each of the storylines, there's little set piece storylines going on where the characters are interacting. And as I watched, I could completely see each one of these being a single issue of a comic book in a series of a crossover event. It was that well done, where each little segment was stood so well on its own in relation to the rest of the story that, yeah, I could just envision these like comic book panels coming to life in a way. Let's see who else is in the chat. Rebecca Bell, hello. Colleen Bernier, hello. Eldritch Lisa, hello. Let's see. Yeah, so if you have been following the film since the beginning, if you're a fan, even if you've seen the ones that are not necessarily the best, and there are some weak Marvel movies, but, you know, it's relative to DC or anyone else. There is a lot of payoff here in the sense that there are details discussed and moments that occur and little things that, to someone seeing this movie as their first Marvel movie, might not pick up on. But anybody who's been following the films, you'll completely get it, and you'll feel a little rewarded for having paid attention. That's not to say no one can come into this without having seen all the other Marvel movies. It certainly helps to understand who's who and what the relationships are and everything. They don't spend a whole lot of time in exposition, which I was really appreciative of. At least not exposition insofar as the characters are concerned. A lot of the characters are just, here they are, you're familiar with them, let's go. And that I appreciated. Let's see who else is in the chat. Re Terrapin, hello. Kingslayer Damocles, hello. And First Cynic, hi. Now, again, I can't give away details, but there are some things that didn't work for me. Okay, now first off, in a general sense, and this doesn't give away any plot points, there are several characters in this movie that are, so far as I can tell, entirely CGI. Okay, which is fine, you know, except that as I watched the film, except in a couple of instances, I didn't see why certain characters had to be CGI. And when they came up alongside the live actors, it was so distinct a difference, you know, the CGI versus a live human in those situations, that it took me out of the moment because it was so obviously CGI. I don't understand why certain characters couldn't have been practical effects. Even if you had to do a little manipulating of, let's say, forced perspective on it, which, you know, they had every ability to do. I won't say why that comment makes sense, but you'll see it if you see the movie. But yeah, the CGI in a lot of places just really took me out of the moment. And I understand it is a comic book movie, so, you know, but there has to be a balance there. The backgrounds, sure, you know, CGI those all over the place because, you know, fictional, fantastical lands and landscapes and everything, you can't really create those necessarily practically. But some of the characters could have been people in makeup, and I think it would have been better. The voice work was good for those. I mean, I have to talk about like voice work like it's a cutscene in a video game because that's what some of those scenes were. What else? There were many moments of emotion in this that were effective and came from characters I would not have expected. Again, I won't say specifically, but I was actually kind of touched in a couple of places in kind of a weird way by some of the emotion expressed in the film. There was, however, one weak narrative moment. I obviously cannot give you details now. I am more than willing to discuss this at length like a week from now when it feels safer to talk about such things. But there comes a moment in the narrative where everything comes to a head, okay? And everything could take a complete turn unless something very specific happens at that exact moment. Something specific that, by all rights, makes no sense to happen, even in the course of a comic book movie. I mean, I can suspend my disbelief, and you really have to, obviously, for this film, in a lot of places, but in a narrative sense, a moment comes where a turning point could occur. This turning point hinges on one thing not happening, and that thing happens for no good reason. Okay? And not even for no good reason, for no reason. There is no reason why it should have happened, but it did, and you know, things progressed from there. And as I sat in the theater and I saw this, I thought, okay, that is just weak sauce. It was really a noticeable blemish on an otherwise very entertaining and effective movie. It didn't ruin the movie per se, but it did make me lose faith a lot in the narrative cohesion going forward from that point. Nothing quite like it happened again in the movie after that, but it was such a just so obviously weak. You know, I thought these guys painted themselves into a narrative corner, and they had to have something to get them out of it because the movie has to continue for a little bit. So aside from that, almost all the characters that you want to see get the spotlight for a little bit or be showcased in their own way get it, which is great. Uh, Everybody matters. The stakes are very clearly laid out. Everybody plays their character as you would hope. There wasn't really any point that I thought, well, except for one instance, really wasn't a point in which I thought, oh, that character wouldn't do that, or that character doesn't make any sense doing that, or their motivation to, not that you're going to have a whole lot of time to think about that stuff because, man, this is action packed. Action, action, action. Thankfully, it wasn't chaotic action where I couldn't tell what was going on like you would see in like a Transformers movie or something. It was all very clearly defined. The Russo brothers are very good at directing action, and that really shows in this one. What was I going to say? I was going to say something else, and now, yeah, no, that would give away something. See, I have to be very careful here. I don't want to ruin anything for anybody. And as a consequence, this isn't going to be a very long live stream. I'll say hello real quick to other people. Hello, Q. Howard the Duck is the question in the chat. Howard the Duck. Okay. Spoiler alert. There is no Howard the Duck. At least as far as I saw. I mean, if he was like hidden in the background of a particular scene or something. Yeah, but no, there was no Howard the Duck. There were several appearances, brief to lengthy, of other characters, minor or otherwise, from the other films. So, like I say, people who've been paying attention and following along with the narrative will feel vindicated. And you'll especially feel vindicated in some instances for staying after the credits in past movies. There was one particular plot note that they kind of explain halfway in the film. But if you stayed after the credits of Thor Dark World, I think it was, pretty sure it was, yes, then you will feel somewhat vindicated. And especially if you saw, well, okay, anyway, if you've seen some of these other movies, you'll feel like the time wasn't completely wasted, even for the weak ones like Thor Dark World. Data Wasteland says, how was the popcorn and soda? I didn't have any. See, one of the problems I have, especially with a movie that's almost 3 hours long, that's the one thing. This is a long movie. It's justified for as much as there is going on, but it's a long movie. I refrained from having anything on my stomach before I went into the movie because I didn't want to have to get up to go to the bathroom halfway through. I'm glad I did because everything matters in this movie. You really want to watch it all the way through. That's why it's going to be so much better probably when it comes out on DVD and people can pause to go take a break for 10 minutes before coming back to it. Let's see. Citron says, I didn't catch The Dark World. Well, I can understand why you didn't. It's probably one of the weakest Marvel movies. But like I say, the after credit scene of Thor The Dark World does help explain a particular plot point in more depth for people watching this movie if they've seen it. It's not necessary. It just helps with you, like, oh, that's why that happened, or that's what that was about. What else? Let's see. There's only one post-credits sequence, and it is after all of the credits. Okay, there's not like, we cut to the movie title, and then we get a little scene, and then we wait till after the credits, and we get another scene. There's a scene right after the credits. Is it worth waiting for? Yes. If you're a Marvel freakazoid and you want to have a little tie-in to an upcoming film, and also get a bit of a cameo from someone, sure, it's worth the wait. If you're not willing to sit through all those credits, and they go on a long time, trust me, someone will post the post-credit scene, or at least give you a whole rundown to the internet within a week or two. Someone will film it inside a theater or something. So it's worth it for the fanboys and for the nerds. if you're just a passive, sort of fan of Marvel stuff, you can wait. It's no big deal. What else? Let's see. Citron says Avengers was devastatingly good. Yeah, like I said, this thing's going to make a trillion dollars. I don't know if it'll beat Black Panther, the best movie ever made. I like Black Panther. It wasn't that good. I don't know. I mean, it made a lot of money, but money doesn't necessarily equate to quality in the grand scheme of things. But hey, just means Marvel can make more movies now. They got a big freaking budget. Let's see. Rebecca Bell says those credits were about to kill me. Yeah, those credits went on a long time. Daniel Fullman says, did your review of Tin Cup get taken down? Tin Cup is over on Monkey's channel. So I should link it over in my reviews. I always forget to put the reviews we do on his channel over on my playlist, but I'll do that after this if I remember to. But if you want to see it now, go over to Monkey's channel. It should be, he has a playlist on there called Reviews or something, I believe. It should be in there. Data Wasteland, the after credit scene is all over YouTube. Do you want to show us? No. This is, I'm not going to put it in the chat because the chat is now recorded for future viewings of this. If people don't want to be spoiled, I'm not going to spoil it for them in one way or the other. Asian Hippie says, Black Panther was too long. Is this one? It's not too long. It is a long movie, but I never felt like there was anything in there that... I never got bored. Let's put it that way. I never got bored. I never thought there was a whole lot of filler. Everything mattered. Everything was relevant. There were actually a couple of very good quiet moments. And this is something that a lot of movies these days, especially action comic book movies, don't seem to understand. If you really want drama, sometimes you don't want a soundtrack. You don't want a bunch of noise. You don't want any jump scares. You just want silence and quiet and contemplative moments for a moment. And there were a couple of those in this that really stood out and really worked, and I appreciated that. Let's see. What else do we have? Rebecca Bell says, I'm watching Black Panther tonight. Should be fun. Black Panther's fine. I think it's a good Marvel movie. It is not the best Marvel movie. And despite its box office worldwide, it is not the best movie ever made or anything. But it's a fine, comic book film. It's got a couple of, weak spots in the narration, but whatever. It's a comic book movie. Kara says, I just saw it today. I am mad. Oh, you're mad. Okay, well, no spoilers in the chat, guys. If people want to, well, there's no real private way to talk to me about it. I'll probably talk at length in more detail like a week or two from now when it feels safer to talk about such things. But anyway, I'm not going to go on much longer with this because I'm really hungry because I didn't have any food at the theater and I haven't had any lunch yet. Let's see. But yeah, the general impression I have is if you have been at all a fan of the Marvel films or the MCU in the last 10 years, you definitely want to see this movie. There's a lot of payoff for those that have been following along. There's lots to see. There's plenty of fan service, both for comic book fans and for fans of just the movies. Like I say, I couldn't have imagined a better representation of a crossover comic book event. The first Avengers movie felt a little bit like it. Age of Ultron, but this one in particular, because you had all the different movies, all the different timelines and different story elements, everything coming together, especially Guardians of the Galaxy. There's no spoiler there. They're in the movie. It really did feel like this crossover event of disparate characters that otherwise would never have encountered each other except for something major happens. And that felt really interesting. And it was really the combination of characters interacting with each other, with as many as there were in this film, was one of the most surprising and entertaining things about it. It's like you didn't know how this character was going to react to this character, how these two would get along, and that kind of thing. So I think that's all I have to say, short of starting to give away spoilers. Kingslayer Damocles says, is Ragnarok a necessary prerequisite, yes or no? It helps. Like I say, there are parts of this movie that it helps to have seen any or all of the other movies. It's not necessary. If you want to have an understanding of how certain characters ended up in the situation they're in as the movie begins, you definitely want to have seen Thor Ragnarok. Is it necessary to continue? No, but you're going to definitely be curious as to how did that get to be that way? And it's all explained in Thor Ragnarok, obviously. Let's see. I think First Cynic says, are there any MCU movies that you would say should be seen before this one? Well, if there had to be key movies to see, I would say the Civil War is definitely useful for a lot of reasons. The first Guardians of the Galaxy movie is definitely useful for a lot of reasons. And yeah, I guess Iron Man 1. Iron Man 1, Civil War, and Guardians of the Galaxy. I suppose if you've seen those three prior to this, you'll be more prepared. Are they necessary? I mean, like I say, this movie doesn't spend a lot of time telling you who these characters are, why they're here, what their current situations are. They assume you've seen the other films. They don't make the other films entirely necessary, but if you haven't seen Civil War, you're definitely going to be wondering about why certain characters are in the situation they're in right now. If you haven't seen Thor Ragnarok, you're definitely going to be wondering, how did this person get here, kind of thing. But Guardians of the Galaxy, the first one, is definitely useful for a lot of the major plot points, because this is sort of an intergalactic film in a lot of ways, and a lot of the elements of that part of the story derive from the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie. So yeah, I think Civil War and Guardians of the Galaxy at least. Okay. Anything else before I split? Kingsley says, the reason I asked is because the only two I haven't seen are Black Panther and Ragnarok. Of the two, I mean, like I say, everything matters. I guess Ragnarok would probably be the one I'd see before this one. Black Panther, the situation of Black Panther in Infinity War is significant, but I think you could probably wait to watch the Black Panther movie to get the backstory. Probably. I mean, it's all up to you, really. Let's see. Citron says, first Captain America explains a small yet important part. Kind of. Like I say, I think I know what you're talking about. I'm not going to get specific because I was glad to see the thing that I think you're talking about. I predicted that something like that would happen prior to this, but it does help. Let's see. People are asking, oh, Monkey and Weebo are reading that Harry Potter knockoff book again. Well, maybe I should go from here and go visit them. I think that's maybe what I'll try to do. Anyway, guys, that's where I'm going to stop it. I don't want to start risking giving away too much else or answering any questions that might give something away. Yeah, this movie is going to make a ton of money. It's a great culmination of a lot of things, but also it's not an end to anything. I'll at least say that. This is not the end of anything. This is just a significant milestone. And I'm really curious to see where they go with it next. So anyway, guys, thank you for coming out, those of you that visited me. I know this was a relatively short stream, but I couldn't risk going any longer without giving things away, and I didn't want to say too much. So yeah, it has my thumbs up. So let's watch the box office. How long before it hits its first billion worldwide is my biggest question. I don't think it'll be long. But anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed this, found it useful or at least entertaining. I will see all of you, hopefully, tonight on Lords of the Night at the regular time. 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern on my channel. And otherwise, guys, take care, and I'll talk to you later.